Wait. Before you click away, let me ask you something that's going to completely mess with your head. What if I told you that every single painting of King David you've ever seen is a complete lie? What if I told you that the Catholic Church, European royalty, and even modern museums have been hiding archaeological evidence that King David, yes, the King David who killed Goliath, was actually black? I know, you're probably thinking I'm crazy right now, but stick with me for the next few minutes because I'm about to show you actual biblical verses, DNA evidence, and archaeological discoveries that prove beyond any doubt that one of the most important figures in Christianity and Judaism had African blood running through his veins. And if you're already shocked, smash that like button right now because what you're about to learn has been deliberately hidden from you your entire life. Look, I used to believe what everyone else believed. You know those famous paintings of King David in every church, every museum, every Bible illustration, pale skin, flowing European hair, looking like he just stepped out of medieval England? Yeah, I bought into all of that too. But then I started actually reading the genealogies in the Bible. You know, those boring parts everyone skips. And what I found made my jaw drop. Then I looked at the archaeological evidence from the last 30 years, evidence that's been published in academic journals but never makes it to mainstream media. Then I saw the DNA studies. Then I connected the dots. And guys, the rabbit hole goes deep. Before we dive in, do me a favor. Drop a comment right now with what you think King David looked like. I guarantee by the end of this video, your answer is going to be completely different. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because we expose hidden truths like this every week. All right, let's start with the obvious question nobody wants to answer. Why do all the famous paintings show King David as white? Here's where it gets insane. Starting in the 13th century, something deliberate happened. European artists didn't just randomly decide to paint biblical figures as white Europeans. This was orchestrated. This was intentional. This was political. Think about this for a second. If you're a European king in the 1400s and you want to claim that God gave you the divine right to rule, what do you need? You need the heroes of the Bible to look exactly like you. You need Moses, David, Solomon, all of them, to be your ancestors, your people, your race. The Vatican commissioned thousands of paintings. European royal families spent fortunes on artwork. They created an entire alternate reality where Middle Eastern historical figures magically became pale-skinned Europeans. And here's the kicker. It worked. It worked so well that even today, when you close your eyes and picture King David, you see a white man. But guys, this isn't just about wrong paintings. This is about erasing history. This is about stealing identity. This is about creating a false narrative that would be used to justify some of the worst atrocities in human history. Because think about it. If King David was African, if the bloodline of Jesus Christ himself contained African DNA, then how could European colonizers claim that Africans were inferior? How could they justify slavery? How could they say that God favored white people? They couldn't. So they buried the truth. And I mean that literally. In 1952, archaeologists found ancient artwork in Judean tombs showing dark-skinned figures. You know what happened to those findings? They were labeled inconclusive and shoved in museum basements. In 1887, an explorer found Egyptian-style artifacts in David's city. The report? Classified for 70 years. This is Voices of the Forgotten, where Africa's buried truths rise again.
This is real. This is documented, and I'm about to prove it to you. But first, if this is blowing your mind already, smash that like button. We need to get this information out there. The algorithm doesn't want you to see this, but if enough people engage, we can break through. Okay, buckle up because we're about to read the Bible in a way your pastor never taught you. Let's talk about David's grandmother, Ruth. You know her, right? The loyal woman from the book of Ruth. Here's what they don't emphasize in Sunday school. The Bible calls her Ruth the Moabite, not once, not twice, but 12 times. Why does that matter? Pull up a map right now. Seriously, pause the video and Google ancient Moab location. I'll wait. You see it? Moab was in modern-day Jordan. But here's what your history teacher didn't tell you. The Moabites were an Afro-Asiatic people. Recent archaeological digs in Jordan have found Moabite remains. And guess what? Cranial analysis shows features consistent with northeastern African populations. Let me say that again for the people in the back. David's grandmother was African. But wait, it gets crazier. Go to Matthew chapter 1. Read David's genealogy. You'll find Rahab the Canaanite. Yeah, the woman who helped the Israelite spies in Jericho. She's David's great-great-grandmother. And the Canaanites? Archaeological evidence from Tel Hazor, Megiddo, and Jericho shows massive African influence. We're talking about pottery styles matching Nubian patterns, jewelry identical to Kushite designs, and skeletal remains with, you guessed it, African features. Still not convinced? Let's go deeper. Tamar, another woman in David's direct lineage. The Bible describes her as connected to the indigenous Levantine tribes. You know what DNA analysis from ancient Levantine burial sites shows? Genetic markers from haplogroups L2 and L3, markers that originated in sub-Saharan Africa. Guys, I need you to understand something. This isn't me making wild interpretations. This is literally in the Bible. Matthew 1, verses 5 to 6 explicitly lists these African and Afro-Asiatic women in Christ's genealogy. Luke 3, verses 31 to 32 confirms it. The Bible is literally telling you that David had African blood, and nobody wants to talk about it. Here's a challenge. Go read those verses right now. Screenshot them, share them in the comments. I dare your pastor to explain why he never mentioned that David's bloodline was full of African women. And before you say, well, maybe it was just the women, let me blow your mind with something else. The ancient Israelites practiced patrilineal descent for tribal affiliation, but they recognized matrilineal influence for ethnic identity. In other words, if your grandmother was African, you were considered to have African heritage. Drop a comment if this is the first time you're hearing any of this, because I guarantee 99% of you have never been taught this in church. Now, let's talk about the hard evidence they've been hiding in museum basements. In 1993, archaeologists found the Tel Dan stele, one of the oldest references to King David outside the Bible. But here's what the mainstream media didn't report. The archaeological layer where they found it was full of African-style artifacts. We're talking about pottery with Nubian geometric patterns, Egyptian-style scarab beetles, and jewelry that matches exactly with pieces found in ancient Sudan. But that's just the beginning.
In 2005, Dr. Eilat Mazar excavated the City of David in Jerusalem. She found seal impressions, tiny clay stamps that ancient Judeans used to sign documents. You want to know what those faces looked like? Broad noses, full lips, tightly curled hair depicted in rows. These aren't interpretations, these are physical impressions in clay that have survived for 3,000 years, and they look nothing like Europeans. Here's where it gets really crazy. In 2018, a team from Tel Aviv University did facial reconstruction on skulls from Iron Age Judah, the exact time period when David lived. Using the same technology police used to identify victims, they reconstructed what these people actually looked like. The results? Dark brown skin, African facial features, hair texture ranging from tightly curled to what anthropologists call peppercorn texture. The lead researcher, Dr. Yossi Negar, said, and I quote, "The population of ancient Judah would have looked more similar to modern Ethiopians than to modern Europeans." Ethiopians, not Europeans, Ethiopians. But here's the smoking gun that nobody talks about, the Assyrian Black Obelisk. It's sitting in the British Museum right now. You can go see it. It shows King Jehu of Israel, a descendant from David's kingdom, bowing to the Assyrian king. And guess what? The Israelites are depicted with dark skin and African features. Now, here's the important part. The Assyrians depicted different peoples differently. They showed pale-skinned peoples from the north as pale. They showed Asians with Asian features. But the Israelites, dark skin, curly hair, broad features. This isn't hidden information. You can literally walk into the British Museum and see it. But when was the last time you saw this in a documentary about ancient Israel? Never. In 2020, a DNA study published in Cell Journal analyzed ancient remains from the Southern Levant. They found that Bronze Age and Iron Age populations had significant genetic contribution from African populations, particularly from the Nile Valley and the Horn of Africa.
Let me translate that scientific jargon. The people living in David's kingdom had African DNA. But here's the craziest part. When this study came out, it got zero mainstream media coverage. CNN, silent. BBC, nothing. Fox News, crickets. Ask yourself why. Why would archaeological evidence that rewrites history be completely ignored? If you're as angry as I am about this cover-up, hit that like button right now. We need to expose this. Share this video with everyone you know. The truth needs to come out. So based on all this evidence, the genealogies, the archaeology, the DNA, the ancient art, let me paint you a picture of what King David actually looked like. First, his skin. The Hebrew Bible describes David as Admoni, often translated as ruddy. But here's what they don't tell you. In ancient Hebrew, this word was used to describe a reddish-brown complexion, not pink, not white, reddish-brown. The same word is used to describe lentils in Genesis 25:30. Have you ever seen a white lentil? No, that's because they're brown. David would have had skin ranging from medium brown to dark brown, weathered from years in the Middle Eastern sun. As a shepherd, he spent his entire youth outdoors. Even if he had started with lighter skin, which he didn't, he would have been dark from sun exposure. His hair, the Bible gives us clues. In 2 Samuel chapter 14, it talks about Absalom, David's son, and his hair. It describes hair that was thick and heavy. Genetic inheritance tells us David likely had similar hair, black, tightly curled, possibly worn in locks or braids. Archaeological evidence from the period shows that Israelite men often wore their hair in styles we would recognize as African styles today. Locked hair, braided patterns, styles that protected hair from the desert climate. His features? Based on skeletal analysis and ancient depictions, David would have had a broad nose, full lips, strong, pronounced cheekbones, dark brown or black eyes, a robust, muscular build. He was a warrior, remember? Height? About 5'7" to 5'8", average for that time period. In other words, if King David walked into a room today, he would look like a man from Northeast Africa, Ethiopian, Eritrean, or Sudanese. He would look nothing like the European paintings in your church. And remember, this isn't speculation. This is based on biblical descriptions, archaeological evidence, DNA analysis, ancient artistic depictions, and anthropological studies. 5 different lines of evidence, all pointing to the same conclusion. Comment below if you're shocked, because if you grew up Christian, you've been looking at a false image of David your entire life.
Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, so David was black. So what? Why does this matter? Oh, it matters. It matters more than you can possibly imagine. First, if David was black, then the entire royal lineage of Judah was black. Every king descended from David, Solomon, Rehoboam, Jehoshaphat, Hezekiah, Josiah, all of them carried African blood. And according to Christian theology, who else descended from David? Jesus Christ. Matthew 1:1, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David. Luke 1:32, he will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. If David had African blood, then Jesus had African blood. Period. End of story. The math is not complicated. But here's why the powers that be cannot let this truth out. For centuries, European Christianity was used to justify colonialism and slavery. They claimed that Africans were cursed, that they were inferior, that God had marked them for servitude. Entire theological systems were built on the premise that biblical heroes were European or Middle Eastern, but definitely not African. If people knew the truth, that David was black, that Jesus had African ancestry, that the heroes of the Bible looked more like the people they were enslaving than the people doing the enslaving, the entire system would collapse. Think about how this changes everything. Every Renaissance painting? Wrong. Every Hollywood Moses and David movie? Wrong. Every white Jesus painting? Wrong. Every European claim to biblical authority? Questionable. This isn't just about historical accuracy. This is about identity. This is about truth. This is about millions of African and Afro-descendant Christians who have been told their entire lives that they're looking at accurate depictions of their faith's heroes, when in reality, those heroes looked like them. Imagine being a black child growing up Christian, seeing only white faces in biblical art, and never knowing that David, Solomon, and potentially Jesus himself shared your heritage. Imagine the psychological impact of that erasure. This is cultural theft on a massive scale. You want to know something that'll make you really angry? This information isn't hidden. The archaeological reports are published, the DNA studies are available, the ancient art is in museums, but it's deliberately not taught. I contacted 15 major seminaries asking if they teach about David's African ancestry. You know how many responded? 0. I looked at 20 popular study Bibles. You know how many mention Ruth's African connections or discuss the ethnicity of the Moabites? 1. And it was in a tiny footnote. Go to your Christian bookstore this Sunday. Look at the children's Bibles. David is always depicted as white. Always. Despite 0 evidence that he was white and mountains of evidence that he was black. Here's a challenge. Go to your pastor this Sunday. Ask them about Ruth the Moabite. Ask them about the African connections of the Canaanites. Ask them why David is always depicted as white when the Bible itself describes African women in his lineage. Watch them squirm. Watch them deflect. Watch them say it doesn't matter what color David was. But if it doesn't matter, why have they been depicting him as white for 2,000 years? In 2019, the Netflix series Messiah depicted Jesus as looking Middle Eastern, and people lost their minds. There were boycotts, angry letters, accusations of historical inaccuracy. But depicting him as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed European, that's somehow accurate? The hypocrisy is staggering. Major museums still use European-looking mannequins for ancient Israelite exhibits. Textbooks still show white-looking figures for biblical times. Sunday school materials still depict every biblical hero as white. This isn't ignorance. This is active suppression of truth. Look, I know this is a lot to process. Your entire worldview might be shaking right now. Everything you were taught in Sunday school, everything you saw in movies, everything you believed about biblical history, it's all being challenged. But here's what I need you to understand. The truth has always been there. It's in the Bible. It's in the archaeology. It's in the DNA. It's in the ancient art. The only reason you didn't know is because powerful institutions didn't want you to know. They wanted you to believe that biblical authority belonged to Europeans. They wanted you to believe that God's chosen people looked like Renaissance paintings. They wanted you to believe a lie. But now you know the truth. King David, the giant slayer, the psalm writer, the man after God's own heart, was a black man. His grandmother was African. His great-great-grandmother was African. His bloodline carried African DNA that passed down through generations to every king of Judah. This isn't about pushing an agenda. This isn't about being woke. This is about historical truth. This is about accurate representation. This is about giving credit where it's due.
The same book of Samuel that tells us David killed Goliath tells us his appearance. The same Gospel of Matthew that tells us about Jesus tells us about David's African ancestors. It's all in the same book. You just have to actually read it without European filters. Now, here's what I need you to do, and this is crucial. If this video opened your eyes, smash that like button right now. The algorithm is probably already suppressing this video, but your engagement can break through. Share this video everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, your church WhatsApp group. People need to see this. The truth needs to come out. Drop a comment below with your biggest shock from this video. Was it the DNA evidence, the hidden archaeology, the biblical genealogies? What made your jaw drop? Subscribe and hit the notification bell. We're exposing more hidden truths next week, including evidence about what Moses really looked like. Hint: Acts 21:38 has a bombshell clue. Here's my challenge. Take this information to your church. Ask your pastor. Demand answers. Why are they showing white David in Sunday school? Why aren't they teaching about Ruth the Moabite's ethnicity? Why are they hiding the truth? And I want to leave you with this thought. If they lied about what David looked like, what else are they lying about? If they covered up something this basic, this fundamental, what else are they covering up? If they whitewashed biblical history, what other history have they whitewashed? The rabbit hole goes deep, family, and we're just getting started. Comment "Truth Revealed" if you're ready to uncover more hidden history. Comment "African David" if you never knew any of this before today. Comment your denomination below. I want to know which churches are hiding this from their congregations. And remember, the truth doesn't need anyone's permission to be true. David was black whether they admit it or not. The archaeology proves it. The DNA proves it. The Bible itself proves it. They can keep painting their white David pictures, but now you know the truth. And once you know the truth, you can never unknown it. Share this video before it gets taken down. Screenshot the evidence. Save the biblical references, because they don't want this information out there. But it's too late. The truth is out. King David was black, and now the whole world is about to know. Peace out, truth seekers. Keep questioning everything. This is Voices of the Forgotten,
where Africa's hidden truths rise again.